Hi, my name is Naimbag Rabut, and today I am going to share you a video presentation of my teaching demonstration for SEAL 121 Technology for Teaching and Learning 2 Language Education, and my chosen topic is Learning English through Detective Fiction Stories. So, let's begin! Good morning, grade 10, and welcome to English Literature 10. So before we begin, I would like to ask if everybody's present. Okay, so everyone is here already, so let's start. Okay, I will be presenting 5 images and you will have to identify them. You will have to place your answer in the comment section. Okay, for the first image, second image, the third image, the fourth, and lastly, the fifth image. Okay, so based on the activity, what do the images represent? Okay, they represent a detective. Very good. But do you know a detective both in real life and in fiction? Okay, so you don't know any detective in real life, but you know fictional detectives. If you know, then can you give an example of a fictional detective from the stories or novels that you've read, or from the movies or TV series that you've watched? Okay, Sherlock Holmes. That's a very classic example of a fictional detective. So, now, I want you to scan the QR code here using your QR code scanner that you have installed in your phones. Okay, so what does the QR code contain? Okay, our topic for today is learning English through detective fiction stories. Okay, and that is an image of Sherlock Holmes. So for today, we are going to know what is detective fiction, who is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who is Sherlock Holmes. Also, we will be having our listening and reading activity, in which we will listen to and read A Scandal in Bohemia. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to unlock vocabularies from the first chapter of The Adventures of Conan Doyle, A Scandal in Bohemia. Enhance your speaking skills by pronouncing or enunciating words properly, and relate the moral of A Scandal in Bohemia by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in real-life basis. Okay class, so what is a detective fiction? A detective fiction is a subgenre of crime, fiction, and mystery fiction in which an investigator or a detective, either a professional, an amateur, or a retired detective, investigates and solves a crime, or often a murder. When it comes to detective fiction, the first author that will come into our mind is, yes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. But who is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a famous detective fiction story writer or author who was born in 1859 and died in 1930. He wrote The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Thus, he invented, or he is the creator of the most famous fictional detective that we ever had, Sherlock Holmes. Now, who is Sherlock Holmes? Sherlock Holmes is a fictional consulting detective based in London during the year 1880 up to the 1914. Holmes is a master of disguise. He reasoned logically to deduce the background of his clients from their first appearance or from their first encounter in the story or in each chapter of the story. Also, Sherlock Holmes used fingerprints, chemical analysis, and forensic science to investigate crimes that he will be solving all throughout the stories. At this point, we will now be having our reading and listening activity in which we will listen to The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Chapter 1, A Scandal in Bohemia. I sent you a link in Facebook Messenger. All you have to do is click the link that will direct you to the audio and the soft copy of the first chapter of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so let's listen and read the first chapter, A Scandal in Bohemia. Okay, so we finish listening and reading to the first chapter of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. But before we share our thoughts, our insights, our emotions, our feelings about the first chapter, we will have an activity. Activity. Clues on the loose. Crack the QR codes. Clues on the loose. Crack the QR codes is an after-reading activity that will test the comprehension of the students on the words used in A Scandal in Bohemia, the first chapter of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. In this activity, the students will use their smartphones to scan the QR codes that will be presented on the board later on to solve the 10 QR codes which contain jumbled letters of a word. This is a fun and engaging activity because the students are going to be detectives in attempt to solve the QR codes. Assuming that the teacher already instructed the students to install a QR code scanner application in their smartphones. After scanning each QR code and solving the jumbled words in it based on the given clues, the student that has the most solved jumbled words correctly will win the game. Are you ready to solve the mystery? Clues are on the loose. Crack the QR codes. Detective, your job starts now. Number 1. It is a complete freedom or authority to act. Number 2. A feeling of deep regret, usually for some misdeed. Number 3. Extortion of money by threats to divulge harmful information. Number 4. Froth with uncertainty or doubt. Number 5. It is of high moral or intellectual value. Number 6. Laugh at with contempt and derision. 7. Demonstrating ability to recognize or draw fine distinctions. Number 8. Without revealing one's identity. Number 9. Impervious to correction by punishment. And number 10. An act of deliberate betrayal. And there you have it, detectives! You did a great job cracking the QR codes and solving the jumbled letters of a word based on the clues given. I hope you enjoyed our activity for today. Until next time! We're done with the activity. You may now share your insights, your thoughts or your feelings about the first chapter of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So class, what is the moral of the story and how can you relate it in real life? Yes, it is about viewing and regarding women as capable and as intelligent as men in the society. During the Victorian era, women were generally viewed as inferior to men, that they don't even have rights, any rights. Their roles is to become beautiful fools who obeys their husbands without questions being asked. However, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle crafted a story in which a woman defied and outwitted two notable men, the King of Bohemia and the most famous detective of England. Miss Adler defied the societal norms and the gender roles that is imposed on women. In the story, Miss Adler is regarded as having the mind of most resolute men. Nowadays, women were given the same rights as men has in the society. Okay, so before our lesson ends, we will going to have another activity. It's based on the after reading activity that we had earlier. I will call a student and you will have to use the words from Clues on the Loose, Crack the QR Codes activity in sentences. Okay. You guys are great. You've used all the words in sentences correctly. Okay, so before we conclude, or before we end this lesson, I will be giving you an assignment. You will have an agreement. Pair with a classmate and create your own fictional detective as well as your antagonist or your villain in a detective fiction story. You will have to decide on the names, the personality traits, and the past life of your detective and your villain. Now each pair must see to it that your detectives must possess a special ability or talent in solving a crime, a mystery crime, as well as the antagonist being capable of doing misdeeds. Now you are allowed to, illustrate or draw your fictional detective and your villain. The final output will be graded based on the criteria I will be giving later on. Okay, so that's it for today, grade 10. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope you will get to use this new set of vocabularies you've learned from the first chapter of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And, I hope you've learned from the moral of the story, and see you again next meeting.